everyone. I'm Mike Godfrey. I'm our VP of Engineering Services with Focus Technology. I'm here today with Rags. He's our Datacenter Practice Director. We're going to talk to you a little bit about VMware's VMC and AWS in particular. Focus is master certified on the VMC and AWS solution, and we want to talk to you about how we're helping our customers, some of the things we've done in the past, and some of the trends that we're seeing. Rags, can you kind of tell me a little bit about why organizations are opting to go to VMC, how we're helping them get there?
The biggest advantage that we see is for the DR solution, right? They can just go VMC, and then they can do the hybrid architecture where they can extend their existing on-premises VMware infrastructure to the cloud, and they can use some of the native tools within VMC for the DR solution, and they do not need to worry about the hardware dependency, right? Which is huge for many customers, specifically with the COVID, with some of the hardware delays that we are seeing. So the VMC on AWS or any other cloud provider would be a huge key take. And then they don't need to worry about some of the things that we see is like firmware upgrades, patching the VMware components, and keeping up to date. Because what happens is VMC or the VMware takes care of upgrading the firmware, keeping the components, the core components, and doing the security patches and keeping up to date on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and Rags, I think that last part's huge, just from a security standpoint, especially nowadays, having VMware constantly upgrading it to always having the latest security patches in there. You don't have to worry about upgrading your environment. There's so many times we go into some of our customer environments and they're running such old technology and such old firmware and operating systems. The amount of security holes there, it's kind of silly. So having someone that's constantly taking care of all that and you're always running with the latest and greatest, I think is a huge advantage. So, a lot of our customers, they're opting for it, and they're opting for it from a cost reason, and what they're looking at from a cost savings. Can you kind of talk to me a little bit more about, what they're seeing from cost savings and how they're going about, managing those expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So one of the good features that we have seen with VMC is, people can start, or the customer can start with as low as 2 hosts or 2 nodes, what, we call it on the cloud side of the house. They can start with 2 nodes, and they can increase from a 2 node to a 3 node, or decrease from a 3 node to a 2 node, like in a fraction of minutes. When it is on-prem, the customers think, there's only one cost that's associated with it. They feel that it's just a 2 servers or a 2 nodes. No, it's not only 2 nodes. There's a lot of things that gets associated whenever there is a VMware infrastructure, right? It's the servers, it's the storage, and the switching infrastructure. It's a 3-tier architecture. But if you take the whole cost into consideration, there's a lot more things that comes into picture, which could be real estate, it's the power, there's cooling, there's hardware, the software maintenance, which we tend to forget, and there's a headcount and the management, right? When I say headcount, we need an administrator to manage all this. And there are travel costs, right? And if there's something goes wrong, we need somebody to travel from one location to other location for a DR location, for an example. So there's a travel cost associated. When you do a math of all this, 2 node on a VMC is a lot more cheaper. So that's how we see the cost for starting off with just 2 nodes.
Thank you. So, what are some of the challenges that we're seeing? I know you work with some customers, and they're definitely seeing a lot of challenges, and especially as they move from going from on-prem into the cloud, and then changing actually cloud, in the middle of it, what cloud provider they want to use. Can you kind of talk about that a little and some of the things that our customers are seeing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that we see is customers that sometimes they don't know what they don't know, right? They want to go into the cloud. They come to us and say, hey, we want to go into the cloud. For some time, it's just a checkbox. So when we take the customer from an on-prem to any cloud, it's a journey. It's not a 1 day or a 2 day activity. It's a journey, because they need to retrain, they need to re-architect their application. So we say, hey, the biggest challenge is restacking or re-architecting your application. So you don't need to do that. And the skill level, right? The on-prem administrator, they don't need to upskill themselves by rereading or retraining themselves with the VMware, because it's on-prem VMware. And once you go into VMC, it's still going to be VMware, depending on the cloud provider that you choose.
Yeah, I agree. We're seeing that. Just if you want to just stop what you're doing, going from your traditional, people are used to, VMware just on premise, and then you're going to cloud native. It can be quite a hop, and a lot of people just aren't ready for it. So I like that going to VMC and AWS, it allows you to slowly integrate into it and start understanding the cloud, because you can natively talk to all the different applications that you actually have in the cloud and the services that you're making use of while using VMC. So you're already in the cloud, and then you're starting to slowly make use of more and more of those technologies. So I think they extremely complementary going together when you start doing that.
Absolutely. And the global footprint, right? I mean, you can go from one region to other region, and then you can replicate from one region to other region. So you have a global footprint. So with the COVID, I think that's been a huge take.
Yeah, the customers like that. It's you just turn it on essentially. It's already built into the VMC solution. You turn it on, and once it's on and it's configured itself, it's as easy as just doing vMotions. Essentially, you can put a little plan together and say, hey, I want to move these 50 VMs from their on-premise. I want to move them into the cloud, and it can manage all that for you. It can manage the changing of the network information, the IP address, that kind of stuff. Or if you're extending your layer 2 networks out, you can maintain these same exact networks, and that's just simple, just a vMotion essentially. So it really is an extension of your data center. I like that. You talked about disaster recovery, and that Site Recovery Manager, I believe. And I know there's others too, but I know VMware's SRM is built right in, and that's another thing that's just, you can turn on pretty much with a click of a button or a checkbox. And I think that's impressive, where in the past you had to kind of spend a lot of time building out your environment. Now just turn it on. You're off and running. You establish your reciprocity, and off you go. You start protecting your VMs, and then you can use it as a DR solution. So I like that.
Absolutely. So one huge case that I've seen is the DR, right? Because they don't need to sign up for these long contracts with data center providers. They don't need to worry about power or cooling like we talked about. The DR is the hugest. That's the most use case that we have seen. People can start off with like we mentioned, 2 nodes, and they can bump it up to 3 nodes or 4 nodes, depending on the workload, right? Depending on the application stack that they want to replicate from on-prem to VMC. They can recategorize and say, hey, I just want to take my tier 1. Then 3 months down the line, I want to take my tier 2 as well. So using a DR for VMC is the number one use case that we have seen.
Especially we have some colleges that look at it, and they like it because during the regular school year they have to scale up tremendously, and then I know during the summertime the needs aren't as much, and so they don't need to use all that hardware. In the past, they had all this hardware to support what was using for 3 quarters out of the year, but now that last quarter wasn't really used. But now they go into a cloud solution. You have the ability to scale down, which is great. You're not paying for stuff you're not using. I like that a lot.
Exactly. And one of the other use case that we have seen, again, I keep bringing up the COVID, right? Is the VDI solution, right? Because people started to work from home. They need that access. So the VDI was the huge use case for us, and we implemented a lot of VDI on the VMC as well.
We do hold the Master Specialist certification on VMC and AWS. So if you guys have any questions, definitely reach out to us. I hope you learned a little bit about it. We can most certainly help you, and please call us.